Music Meltdown, in which we rate, rank, and review any artist's discography, songs, and musical topics, really whatever comes to mind. This episode talking about the late 80s, 90s, really all of time at this point. Pop punk, alt rock sort of band Green Day. Started out in the very early 90s. They've released, I believe, 13 records at this point. Divisive band. A lot of people love them. A lot of people hate them. Shout outs to ARTV, who loves this band way too much, and nobody likes. That being said, however, I have the man that has drummed on every single record ever made, including Davy Jones' self-titled in 1965, Mr. Dylan Survey. That's right? No.
CV.
Cool.
I'm gonna call up my big shot lawyers and get a lawsuit going for that one. But it's true. I am on every record ever made, and now I'm on every YouTube channel ever created.
Hey, look at that.
So thanks for having me on here. I'm really, really excited to talk about this.
Of course, it was actually your idea to do Green Day, because I was just messaging you because we're both on the Taste Like Music Discord and have gotten to just sort of talking regularly. And I was like, we should do an episode together at some point. Didn't really have somebody, and I actually think I did. I think I initially did have My Morning Jacket in mind. And you were like, let's do Green Day. I was like, okay. So yeah, we're doing Green Day now.
Yeah, and I would say overall, I'm a much bigger My Morning Jacket fan than I am a Green Day fan, but I'm a much bigger Green Day fan, probably that I have any right to be, probably than what most people would expect, given the other music that I generally listen to, and probably even much more than I would expect if I take a look at just how much I've listened to bands individually throughout my life. Yeah, I really love Green Day, and I thought this would be a lot of fun.
Nice. They are a pretty big band for me too. Pretty much the only artist. It's them and it's Bruce Springsteen that my mother would play in the car whenever I would be transported to school and whatnot. So that's fun. Pretty much always had 21st Century Breakdown or American Idiot in the dial. That are the Sirius XM Springsteen station. So bit of opposites there, but it is what it is. So I knew Green Day very well going into this. I had heard every one of these records, I want to say at least 3 times. So I just sort of went back not too long ago, sort of re-listened to everything, as I kind of fell out with the group whenever I decided to be way lamer. So that being said, though, it was interesting to go back to these guys, because I do think, I'll say this up front because I was talking to you about it, I feel like they kind of do get pigeonholed into pop punk, when really outside of their big records, I wouldn't really even consider them that much of a pop punk band. So
No, I totally agree. I joined our friend Jason, who is, one of the co-hosts, the founder of Taste Like Music. He has another show, Worst Favorite Record, and I joined him for that show to talk about a Green Day album. And yeah, like I said on that show, yeah, I never liked much of their contemporaries. Even as a kid, I never liked Blink-182, never cared all that much for NoFX. I can't stand, kind of the second wave and third wave, the bands that they influenced, New Found Glory, Simple Plan, Fall Out Boy. But yeah, I've always loved Green Day because, yeah, to me, there's obviously the pop punk flair and stylings, but past that, I think they're just a great rock and roll band, kind of disguised as a pop punk band. I think that they're better instrumentalists than most of their peers. I think that Billy Joe Armstrong is an unbelievably strong melodist and lyricist, and he doesn't sing with those stupid pop punk affectations most of the time, like that really round, dramatic sort of thing that I can't stand. I mean, I was born in 1991, so as long as I've been sentient, I've been hearing Green Day on the radio. And I always liked them fine enough, but yeah, I didn't have any of their albums, I don't think, until Christmas 2004, when Santa Claus slipped a copy of American Idiot into my stocking, and pretty soon after that went back, acquired the rest of the catalog, and yeah, I really like them a lot. I've liked them for almost 20 years. And yeah, I'm very, very familiar with this entire catalog, outside of a few records, which I've probably only heard, 4 or 5 times in total. The rest of them I've probably heard at least 20 or 30 times, if not much more than that. So
Nice. Santa was clearly setting you up for disappointment with what would come after that record, but he sent you on a good path, maybe?
you know, Mr. Kringle works in mysterious ways. Who are we to question his motives and intentions?
I now will only picture Santa Claus as being Bono in a Santa suit. That's just how I envision him now. But I had something that I was going to say there, but it has now slipped my mind. So, oh well.
We were talking Christmas. It
Yeah.
happens easily.
Yes, of course. Luckily, Green Day never made a Christmas album, just a couple of singles, so don't have to deal with that. Even if they did, wouldn't have counted it because I barely wanted to count the Monkees one.
I would have forced you. Don't you worry.
Peer pressure's a bitch. Anyways, gonna start off with 13 through 11, then go 10 to 1. You know the gist. Do you say you wanted to start this one out, or do you want me to?
I can start it out.
Sounds cool to me. Go ahead.
All right. So my number 13, the obvious number 13, the only choice for number 13, and I'm already upset knowing that you don't have it at your bottom, is 2020's Father of All Motherfuckers. Just a bafflingly bad album, devoid of any intelligent, interesting, or original songwriting. Oh Yeah is one of the worst songs in their catalog. Fire Ready Aim sounds like they're unsuccessfully trying to be the Hives. Meet Me on the Roof sounds like a Foxborough Hot Tubs reject that should have stayed rejected. Take the Money and Crawl is embarrassing. And the whole thing just sounds contrived, like they're somehow trying to be more commercial, but they can't figure out exactly what they're going for. I Was a Teenager is slightly okay, but the only actual saving grace is Graffitia, which has a simple but effective melody, and it's the only song on the album that he wrote actual lyrics for. Another black kid was shot in town, man with a badge in a daytime show, Darkness Falls on Graffitia, Death of a Town in the Afterglow. Really smart, excellent songwriting, but even with that, I can only get up to a 1.5 out of 5 for Father of All. My number 12 is Dose, the second album in their ill-advised 2012 trilogy. There are a few tracks on here that I enjoy. I think Stop When the Red Lights Flash and Wow That's Loud are some fun rockers. And Amy is a nice, affecting ballad to close out the album. But unfortunately, those songs stand alongside some of the ugliest tracks in their catalogs. Fuck Time is probably their most infamous song for good reason, but Nightlife, featuring a cringeworthy guest rapping appearance by Lady Cobra, who I don't think has done anything noteworthy since this album, is the most atrocious song in their catalog. And then you've got a bunch of boring, listless songs like Ashley, Baby Eyes, Lazy Bones. Just not a very fun or consistent listen. 2 stars for me for Dose. And my number 11 is Uno, the first album in the trilogy. I'm up to 2.5 stars for this one. I know, wow, really moving on up here. I think the middle of the road tracks on this album are slightly better than the ones on Dose. And even though I think Kill the DJ, Troublemaker, and Let Yourself Go are pretty poor, none of them are as bad as Nightlife. I think Oh Love, Nuclear Family, and Carpe Diem are all decently solid songs, but they're also all let down by very sterile production, which is prevalent throughout the whole trilogy. Far from the worst thing I've ever heard, but still pretty lackluster overall. So Uno, number 11, 2.5 stars.
All right. We share the same bottom 3 in a slightly different order because I don't think Father of All is that bad. My bottom pretty easily is Dose. This record is straight up embarrassing. Pretty much how you described Father of All is how I would describe Dose, but I think it's even worse because I don't know how well regarded Foxborough Hot Tubs is, but even I can admit this is probably just the piss takes for that record. It's a bunch of really drably written songs with some of Billy Joe's worst vocal performances, lazy as shit bass lines from Mike Dirnt. And Trey Cool's cool. He's doing his best. the songs are dog shit, but I mean, he's there. He's doing his best job. Wait, my apologies. You.
We stand Trey on this podcast.
Sure. The closer, Amy. I think that might be the best song in the entire trilogy, mainly because the rest of the songs in the trilogy are pretty lackluster. As you mentioned before, Lady Cobra, Nightlife, both just completely unbearable. I cannot stand Wow That's Loud. I don't know what you hear in that song. Just that opening bit. I'm not sure if that's like a really horribly tuned guitar or like what it is. I cannot stand it. And yeah, Fuck Time. You did not deserve that extra minute at the iHeart Music Festival, Billy Joe, after you started singing the lyrics. Baby, baby, it's fuck time. Get off my stage, you piece of shit. Anyways, afterwards, I have that at a rather kind 1.5 stars, very gracious of me. I had those pretty garbage. Going up from there, I have Uno. Yeah, no bueno, my friend. Just if you asked, I know AI has been going around lately. If you asked AI to create a Green Day album, they wouldn't make this one. They'd make Father of All, which says a lot. These songs are just really, really mediocre across the board. Nuclear Family, Save the Night, Carpe Diem, Let Yourself Go. I could have written those in like 5 minutes and still probably had a worse melody because I'm not a musician. Kill the DJ is their laughable attempt at dance punk, and I'm going to steal this from somebody else that I heard. It's less Death from Above 1979 and more 311. No good. Fell for You is just really mediocre, and that's really the best way to describe it. Cardboard, it's styrofoam, if you will. It's not even as fun as like bubble wrap. It's just I don't appreciate it. And the closer, Oh Love, it's fine, but 5 minutes, get out of town. Moving up from there, I do have Father of All Motherfuckers. Yeah, 2.5 stars. I think this record is okay. However, his sort of Adam Levine inflection on Father of All does not do it for me. I say this as an Adam Levine defender, because I actually kind of like his voice, but no, Billy Joe, you should not be in this zone, my friend. Fire at the Am, I think it's fine. I think it's a perfectly enjoyable rocker. Oh Yeah is dreadful. Meet Me on the Roof. After then, it just becomes kind of like a parody. It's like 25 minutes long, and it kind of just feels like they're going through every rock and roll cliche that they could, while having this weird kind of like upbeat, just sort of gradual tempo going throughout them. They're just unremarkable, except for Graffitia at the end, which I think is just god awful. I don't see what you see in that song. It is easily my least favorite on this record, and that comes on the record with a chorus that goes, "I was a teenager filled with piss and vinegar," which just listen. You gotta learn how to write a lyric again, man.
He does on Graffitia.
Yeah, he just doesn't do it well. Is the issue. I see we're in for a good show here. Yeah, I don't have much more to add about it except for the cover with my good friend Horny the Unicorn. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that name got out there. Those are my bottom three: 2.5, 2.5, and 1.5. Not starting out strong for Green Day. Sorry, Trey.
Yeah, and for me, it's still going to be a minute before we get to really strong stuff. But yeah, getting into the top 10, my number 10 is Revolution Radio from 2016. I'm going to be honest, I not only didn't listen to this when it came out, I didn't even know about its existence until 2020 when I got into a bit of a Green Day deep dive. I had listened to Uno when it came out and was so ridiculously unimpressed that I just totally fell off the Green Day train for almost a decade. Yeah, another thing that Jason and I had talked about on the podcast was this idea that it might be hard for Green Day to pinpoint where they're going to go in the second half of their career, because they did these 2 sprawling concept records, An American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown. They try to go back to basics in some ways with the trilogy, just kind of using the concept of the trilogy itself to try and keep things interesting, and have since made these 2 other albums that have received middling reception at best from fans and critics. Like, where do you go, especially with the type of the band they are. But I think on the best moments on Revolution Radio, they do strike this happy medium between the bombast of the 2000s records and a more honed in approach. The album opener, Somewhere Now, has this obvious classic 70s rock influence, which they'd utilize a lot in the concept records, but it doesn't feel like they're striving for this hugely important thing either. They're just content to write and perform a really solid song. It's probably my favorite track on the album, but I also dig Bouncing Off the Wall and Youngblood. I think they're two fun songs. Say Goodbye has an interesting soundscape. I think Ordinary World is kind of like Diet Good Riddance, but I think that Billy is such a good, underrated singer, so I'll take any opportunity to hear him with just an acoustic guitar. But overall, it's still not a great album. Troubled Times is a bit of a drag, but not even half as much as Outlaws, which might be the biggest slog they've ever committed to tape. I also I really don't care for Still Breathing. They just get way too dangerously close to Fall Out Boy territory for me there. Like, just because you guys inspired their terrible music doesn't mean that you need to take something from them either. So I'm sticking at 2.5 stars for Revolution Radio. Maybe the most inconsequential album in their discography, but certainly not the worst.
There's a debate for it being the least consequential. There's also a debate for me liking several Fall Out Boy albums more than any Green Day album, so debates are fun, my friend. It's fair to throw that in there eventually. So next up, I'm talking about Trey. This one's fine. It's decent. I'm up to 3 stars. It is a listenable album. One distinguishing factor about Trey in comparison to the other 2 records of the trilogy is this one has a couple of good songs on it. Fucking Crazy, I Know. Starts out pretty well with Brutal Love. I think that one's fun. I like 8th Avenue Serenade as well. And near the end, 99 Revolutions is probably the only time across the entirety of the trilogy they actually accomplished creating a good back-to-basics rock song. You did not need 28 songs, Billy Joe. What were you thinking? Because I think you wrote more. I don't know. The rest of this album exists. Missing Me is fine. I think Drama Queen is okay. I don't get how X-Kid was the single. Like, of everything to be a single on here, even though this song sucks, I probably would have picked Dirty Rotten Bastards to at least try and attempt to hit on what something like Jesus of Suburbia did. And you would have failed on your face, mind you. But it would have at least been more interesting than fucking X-Kid. I think Amanda is interesting, if only for the fact that he's singing about an ex that he dated maybe at this point 30 years ago. Get over yourself. The Forgotten, I believe, was their forgotten song for the Twilight soundtrack, and for good reason, because it just exists. Interestingly enough, there are 2 lines on this record that Mike Dirnt sings on Sex, Drugs, and Violence. Why? I like his voice. I'm glad that he's there, but you gave him 2 lines across the entirety of your 3 albums. Why? I don't know. It's a decent record. I can listen to it. I don't want to listen to it, but I could. So number 10, Trey, 3 stars.
Okay. Well, my Green Day cred is about to take a huge hit because at number 9, I have their 1990 debut album, 39 Smooth. There's some great tunes on here. Going to Pasalacqua is the obvious standout, but I also really like I Was There, The Judge's Daughter, Road to Acceptance, At the Library. But there are also quite a few that don't do as much for me. I really don't like Rest. I don't think that they were ready to tackle a song like that at this early stage of their career. I'm also not really hot on Disappearing Boy or 16. And, I struggle with how I feel on the production because I don't need or want everything to sound perfect, quote unquote. There's a bunch of albums I love that don't feature prototypically good production, but I do think there are times on this album where the production doesn't allow the quality of what's being sung or played to stand out in the ways that I want them to, which might be influenced by knowing what they'd sound like in a few albums' time. But you do hear a lot of their potential on this album, and like I said, there's some very good stuff. I'm actually still staying at 2.5 stars for now for this album, but I'm sure I could bump it up to 3 stars one day on a good day.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because at least from what I've gathered from whenever I was much bigger into Green Day and just watching ranking videos online, you commit a bit of a faux pas earlier because a lot of Green Day fans really love Revolution Radio, tout it as a return to form, and just I don't know, that one got massive praise. It also got a 3 out of 10 from Anthony Fantano. I think it also got like 5 stars from ARTV. So
Uh, it sounds like a case of a lot of people wanting something to be more than what it is, but that's
that
just my opinion.
that is accurate. And it's my number 9, Revolution Radio. I want to say the main reason why I brought that up is because most people have 39 Smooth way lower, which is interesting because I'll have it way higher. So, yeah, Revolution Radio is an album. Very much so, they were trying to blend together their more back to basics approach with the incredibly overglorified rock operas that they made in the aughts. And simply put, did they succeed? No. However, this one has a couple of good songs, so I'll take it. I agree with you. The opener, Somewhere Now, it's pretty good. I think the title track, Revolution Radio, that's a fun sort of catchy pop rock song. Bang Bang is really bad. They are trying way too hard to be this titan, this like global force and preventing against this when Billy Joe Armstrong, shut the fuck up. You are not good enough for this. I fully agree with you on Outlaws. That is genuinely my least favorite song that they've ever made. I cannot stand it. It is the most overblown, overproduced, drab piece of garbage that they produced. And it makes me want to sit down and listen to Dose for an hour on repeat, which is good because the album's only an hour long. So I'll get through that and fuck time. Anyways, yeah, the rest of the album's okay. Youngblood, it exists. Too Dumb to Die, okay. Troubled Times is weird because it's like it's trying to be really big and overblown, but it's like they don't go far enough. But at the same time, the core of the song isn't really that interesting to justify it. I don't know what they're going for. I do actually think the closer, Ordinary World, is really lovely. Just ham on an acoustic. I actually probably like it a little bit more than Good Riddance, simply because I just really think that this is well written. And Still Breathing. Here's what I'll say. It is overblown. It is overwritten. It is overproduced. It's fun. I like it. I will say it's practically just like I wouldn't say Fall Out Boy. It's more so I don't know who I would compare it to. I'd say it's almost more so like a fun song, if that makes sense, with just how overblown pop approach it is. It's I don't know. It's not good, mind you, but I like it because I'm awful. So I don't know. I'm at 3 stars for that album. It's fine. I do not think that it deserves at all what some people have it at. I've seen lists where that's as high as like 4 or 5. And it's just like, I don't get it. You are very much projecting things onto an album that just simply is not that good. So, number 9, Revolution Radio, 3 stars.
Nice, good review. At number 8, I have their sophomore album, 1992's Kerplunk. And I officially am up to 3 stars for a few reasons. We've got Trey Cool entering the band, taking the place of John Kiffmeyer from the record before, and my God, is the difference night and day. Not only is his individual drumming better, but the whole band is tighter, sounds even more rejuvenated. The album sounds a little bit better production-wise, but it still maintains a bit of that DIY feel that works in its favor. And I think Billy Joe's Armstrong just keeps getting stronger. I think that Christy Road is a great tune, 2000 Light Years Away, 80. My favorite at this moment is probably One for the Razorbacks. I love the energy on that song. Welcome to Paradise shows up here for the first time. They obviously end up re-recording it for Dookie a couple years later. And even though I think the re-recording is a massive improvement, it's still a great song. The rest of the tracks I can kind of take or leave to varying degrees. They're still not all the way there yet for me, but I think it's an improvement on the debut, and it's my number 8, 3 stars for Kerplunk.
That is also my number 8. And I actually read somewhere this is apparently Billy Joe's favorite album that they made, and I can understand why. It's a bit of a crossing between, the debut's really raw DIY kind of punk energy and what they would later do with Rob Cavallo and Reprise Records. The issue is I feel like it loses a lot of the fun and charm of the really rough, gritty debut record. Gritty might not be the word to describe it. Dirty is probably better, if I'm being honest. I don't know. Something about the sound of this record is I think it's noticeably better than 39 Smooth. However, it's still not very good. So I feel like you lose a bit of, that appeal of the really raw, really just fun teenagers jamming out in their garage or whatever. However, songwriting definitely better on this release. Billy Joe Armstrong really just writing some decent songs. We're in the hook era. He can write hooks now. So 2000 Light Years Away is pretty good. Obviously, Welcome to Paradise on this record. I actually think I slightly prefer this one, but it's tricky. Christy Rhodes really good. Dominated Love Life is Trey Cool is not a singer. We may like Trey Cool, but the man cannot sing. And they let him do it on this record, and they also let him do it on, American Idiot on Homecoming, but it's like one little part. But he's also given All By Myself the hidden track to Dookie, and goddamn, somebody kicked this man's fucking microphone. It's fun though. I guess
it's fun.
Is it? I don't know.
I think it's
well. That's cool. I guess. My favorite song on here has to be 80. I feel like that's him talking about his future wife Adrian, which is me. Hi. But no, I think that I think it's a really well written song. So good job. I don't know. I think they actually do a cover of the Who's My Generation on this, which is weird. It's the only
bonus track, I think.
Okay. I listened to that by mistake. I think that's the only. No, they've done other covers, but they don't do that one well. I don't know. I don't have a ton to say about Kerplunk. I think it's just like a standard kind of fun rock record. I have it at 3.5 stars. It's good, but I mean, as you're gonna see, I have a lot of these at 3.5 stars. We're gonna be stuck in this territory for a while. So I don't know. It's good. I can listen to it, but I'm just never gonna seek it out, I suppose is the best way to put it. So I think that was number 8, Kerplunk. Yeah, look at us syncing up.
Look at it. Who'd have thought? You and me.
That's the GIF.
Yeah, insert Paul Rudd GIF here. Well, if all the Green Day superfans hate me enough for having the first 2 albums rated so low, they're gonna hate me that much more for having Trey at number 7, the final album in the much maligned 2012 trilogy. There's a reason I chose to talk about this album on a podcast called Worst Favorite Record. I recognize that it isn't particularly great, and it does not have a stellar reputation, but I do genuinely like a decent amount of it, and I think it's far and away the best album of the trilogy. The production still isn't great across the board, but it is the most musically diverse of the 3 albums, and they incorporate a few more sounds and instruments that I really appreciate. I genuinely really like 8th Avenue Serenade, Walk Away, and Ex-Kid, extremely strong melodic songs. I've also seen a lot of people completely miss the point when talking shit on songs like Drama Queen and A Little Boy Named Train, both of which I really like a lot. And, again, none of it's groundbreaking stuff. And yes, there's still some of the lazy songwriting that permeates the trilogy as a whole. I actually think 99 Revolutions is about as Green Day by the numbers as you can get. I think it's pretty lousy. I think Dirty Rotten Bastards is awful, from the na 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 intro to the underwritten lyrics to the cheap attempt to create an American Idiot or 21st Century Breakdown style medley. The Forgotten is way too overly schmaltzy and unfortunately lives up to being a song written for a Twilight movie. But like I said, I genuinely like more than half this album. I like more songs on this record than I do on Uno and Dos combined. It's remarkable to me that anyone wouldn't consider this the best of the trilogy. And for me personally, I like it enough to have it all the way up at number 7 in my rankings, still at 3 stars. I almost put it at number 6 because of certain feelings I have about another record, but we'll get to that next.
I would have done it just because it would have been funny. But anyways, I do agree. I've always thought Trey was the best of the trilogy. I know that some people try and argue Dose is the best of the trilogy. I think that those people are clinically insane. Hey, Clay. But anyways, moving up from here, talking about, I know I said this before, what I think might be their least remarkable record. I'm talking about Insomniac. Here's my case. If you take away songs like Geek Stink Breath, you take away Brain Stew, you take away Jaded, nobody really is gonna notice. There are other good songs on here, but in the context of Green Day as a whole, in many ways, this record is Dookie, but they got a little bit angrier. And it's like, they didn't write as good songs because of that. I don't think it starts out very well. I don't like Armitage Shanks. I don't like Brat. I don't like Stuck With You that much. Geek Stink Breath, that one's really good. Same with No Pride. I've always been a big fan of 86, kind of their rebellion against Gilman's. Really good song. I think Panic Song is really interesting for them, and kind of hints at what they would later do on Nimrod with something like Kashinka, and them sort of just experimenting a bit more in the studio. You still have more fun, sort of rockier songs with Stewart and the Avenue. Brain Stew and Jaded, really cool stuff, a bit heavier, a bit more out there. Interesting for them. Westbound Sign, once again, just a fun, sort of by the numbers, sort of Green Day track, which is kind of how I would describe this one. It is a Green Day album. If you like Dookie, you'll probably like Insomniac, but the writing on this record just simply isn't as tight, except for on the closer, Walking Contradiction. That is a all-star Green Day song, one of their best in my opinion. And I don't know, I've never really felt that strongly to this one. I feel like it lives in the shadow of what came before it and what lives after it. And even on their weaker records and least and sort of less remarkable ones, I know Dose for how awful it is. I can acknowledge Father of All for that god-awful album cover. I can live in disbelief by Revolution Radio's absurd critical appraisal from fans. And Trey and Uno are a part of the trilogy, so I guess that makes me remember them. I don't know, just this one kind of falls beyond the cracks for me. It's good, it's solid. I have it at 3.5, but am I really going to go back to it as an album very often? I don't believe so. So yeah, Insomniac. Good job on releasing.
We disagree on a few key things, especially the consequentiality of it. I don't know if that's a real word. I hope it is. I think it is. I'm like 96% sure it is, but we'll see. But we actually, I don't necessarily disagree with everything you just said. We'll get there in a minute. What we are probably going to disagree majorly on is my number 6, which is 2009's 21st Century Breakdown, the eagerly awaited follow-up to American Idiot. I vividly remember buying this album the day it came out, listening to it with a bunch of my friends on my dad's massive basement sound system. And over the last 14 years, I've listened to this album, I don't know how many more times, multiple dozens of times. And even though my opinions on certain individual songs have shifted, I still feel pretty similarly to how I did on my very first listen, which is, yeah, it's good, but I want to like it so much more. There's so many things that stop me from really liking this record. Listen, if you think American Idiot sounds like shit, if you think American Idiot was too loud and overly compressed, well, wait till you hear this record. It's even louder. It sounds more mechanical. Its loudness work times 10. Billy Joe, who has an excellent voice, in my opinion, they start noticeably tuning his vocals on this album. And if they ever had before this one, I don't think it was as noticeable. It's not necessarily the auto tune that you think of when you think about like the shifting sort of like warbly notes. It's a little hard for me to describe, to be honest. It's this very smoothed out sound that makes it sound very slick and clean and sheen. And I don't love it. And I also don't love that he's now noticeably providing all of his own backing vocals. I think you really miss the slight difference in timbre with Mike Dirnt providing them. And overall, not only is the album way too long, but my God, so many of these songs are so overwritten and overblown. It is so obvious to me that he's trying so hard to outdo what he'd done on the previous record. More than half of these songs are trying way too hard on the lyrical front, to the point where like half of what he's saying, half of these words don't mean anything at all if you pay attention to them. The story that he's trying to write across the record isn't half as coherent, so it's also not entirely successful on that front. And God, songs like Viva La Gloria, Restless Heart Syndrome, and 21 Guns are just so overblown. They are as overblown as Outlaws. It just happens to be the Outlaws is worse written. These aren't very well written songs, but Outlaws is just worse. Christian's Inferno and Murder City are very lame rockers to me. I can't take See the Light seriously because the chorus reminds me I Just Died in Your Arms by Cutting Crew. And of all, it's literally, I just died in your arms tonight. I'm just trying to see it's the same thing. Of all these songs I just mentioned, all of these songs I just mentioned, I'm sorry, they are all so dangerously close to My Chemical Romance, Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy. That is not what I want from Green Day. It's not, and they are better than that for me. So, that being said, I have it at number 6 for a reason, and I did stop myself from putting it below Trey for a reason. I think the title track, while also a bit overblown, is pretty well written, and I love the band performance on it. Know Your Enemy is an extremely solid rocker. I've always really liked that one. The Static Age and Last of the American Girls are some of the best melodies on the record. American Eulogy doesn't touch the medleys on American Idiot, but it's still very good. I've also grown to like Last Night on Earth a good bit. I've always dug Peacemaker, especially the guitar work on it. My favorite song is probably Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, which, unlike Fire Ready Aim from Father of All, very successfully emulates the Hives, who are one of my favorite bands of the 21st century. Great energy on that song. So there's a decent amount of material I like on this album. There's probably a 10-track version of this record that I'd really love. But even then, I still wouldn't love the sound of it. And overall, it's just such an obvious attempt to jump a step up from the previous album that it ends up being a noticeable step down, especially on the songwriting front. So 3 stars for 21st Century Breakdown. Sorry to shit on an album that you have massive nostalgic attachment to.
No, it's fine. It kind of sucks, but I like it, so it's all good. But I have a couple of things there. Number one, I'm a little bitch, so I really like those super edgy bands because they were like what I was first getting into. So give me Black Parade all day long, my friend.
I can't take that away from you. And anyone, listen. I mean, anyone watching it should go without saying. Everything that we're talking about, these are just our opinions. It is all subjective. We talk in absolutes because it would get tiring to say in my opinion or I think before every sentence, but I'm not looking to take anything away from anyone. That's just how I feel.
Yes. Secondarily, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades is easily my least favorite on the album, but we'll get to that later.
Ridiculous. But okay.
I fully agree. I'm a wacky woman. And past that, number 3, talking about 39 Smooth. This is an album that I was expecting at least like bottom 4 going into this. I think it's pretty good. I'm at 3.5 stars. This is them very clearly sort of borrowing from that sort of late 80s sort of college rock punky scene. You get notes of Replacements, you get like Husker Du, you get like those sorts of bands that they've been noted to really enjoy, especially in the production quality, which might rival the likes of something like Zen Arcade for how shit it sounds, but the songs are not as good.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hey, sorry to talk about Green Day. She hates them, but
I know. We'll see if she actually watched this.
She won't.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I like this album. I think it is fun. It is good. It is charming. The drums, man, do I wish Trey Cool was on this record, because while they are not bad, John Kiffmeyer is certainly giving it the college attempt. You fucking suck, dude. In comparison. At the library, it's pretty good. I like Don't Leave Me. I Was There Was fun. I thought Disappearing Boy, I like that first 4 running tracks. I think they're all pretty fun, high energy, just going for it. They're having fun. And that's kind of the best way to describe it. It's just sort of youthful energy, just sort of rebelling against probably nothing at this point, just sort of trying to have fun and fit into a crowd. And they do pretty well with it. Going to Paso Aqua, like you said, really good song. 16 as well, I've always really liked. Probably our biggest disagreement is the song Rest, because I always love that song. I've seen it ranked as low as a bottom 5 Green Day song, and it's at least like a top 20 Green Day song for me. I absolutely love it. I think it's sort of that really shitty sound quality with Billy's admittedly really lame performance, because he's just like, and rest. No, he's just like gross. It's bad. I love it. Then it closes pretty well with The Judge's Daughter. If you want to listen to it now, it's tacked on with a bunch of EPs that nobody cares about. So good luck. Yeah, I like it. I think it's pretty good. Just fun, sort of raw energy, having a good time. 3.5 stars for 39 Smooth.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is very, very fair and very understandable. Yeah, the John Kiffmeyer to Trey Cool, I'm not a Rush fan at all, but I think it's interesting if you listen to their first album where John Rutsey's on drums and then Neil Peart joins. John Rutsey is a totally great drummer. Like you don't, I don't think, listen to that album and think, oh my God, this is trash. I need Neil Peart in the band. It's just that Neil Peart, especially if you're into that style of drumming, it's like, holy crap, this guy's an extra level up in terms of technicality, proficiency and all that. It's with John Kiffmeyer and Trey Cool, it is noticeably, they went from a mediocre drummer to someone who's actually very capable. It's much more noticeable there, I think. And I actually think some of the songs tacked on to, because now it's I always mess up the name of it, 1039 Smoothed Out Slappy Hours or something like that. There's some decent songs tacked onto it. I wouldn't say nobody cares about them, but I only, you don't care, but I only go back to it so much personally. Anyway, we are getting into the cream of the crop with my number 5, which is 1995's Insomniac, which I'm up to 3.5 stars for this one. I am with you. I've never loved this as much as a lot of other Green Day fans. I know some people who would rank this at or near the very top of their lists. And for me, it's missing the individual highlights to make that happen. This is Fiona, for anyone who hasn't met her yet. Hello, Fiona. She wanted to be a part of the conversation. It's missing the individual highlights, but I do think it works really well as a cohesive whole, and I do push back on deeming it the most inconsequential album. It is noticeably darker than Dookie from the year before. You hear Billy Joe struggling with his drug addiction on a few of these songs, the most obvious being Geek Stink Breath, dealing pretty heavily with being outcasted from the San Francisco scene in '86, like you said. A lot of palpable anger, frustration, and uncertainty on this record that I think is really affecting. And, there's certainly a larger conversation to be had there of like, should you have to know the context, from which an album was made to appreciate it? I think there are certain albums where it's almost impossible to divorce, an album like Double Fantasy, by John and Yoko. It's like, how do you listen to that album not knowing in the back of your head that he was murdered 3 weeks after it came out? Or even another solo Beatles comparison. How do you listen to an album like All Things Must Pass, not thinking about, this was the kid brother, quote unquote, in the Beatles stepping out for the first time, making his big artistic statement. With Insomniac, if you don't take into account a lot of the context in which it was made, him being very, very heavily affected, not just by drug addiction, but, fame in general. And, the pushback that they got for signing to a major label was something that he took very, very seriously. And I don't know, you really hear that on this record. And I think that makes it so easily a very consequential album, whether or not you you know love it or love the individual songs. But there are individual songs here that I really like. For all the radio play that Brainstew and Jaded have gotten, I still think that they kick so much ass. I also really love No Pride, the aforementioned 86 and Geek Stink Breath. Panic Song is one of their most musically adventurous tunes from this early part of their career. Mike Dirnt has amazing bass work on this. The neutering of Mike Dirnt as a bass player starting on American Idiot is very, very sad, because his work from the first album up through Warning, I think, is very, very good. So yeah, I'm not as high on Insomniac as some other fans, but I still do like it a good bit. It's my number 5 at 3.5 stars.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's fine. It's a decent enough record. Gets the job done. If you want, like, I don't know, easily digestible Green Day, like if you want Green Day in pill form, I'd say listen to it. And Insomniac. Anyways, next up is Dookie. I don't know. I I feel like the rest of my list is gonna cause Mr. ARTV to slap my face and call me a naughty woman. So I don't know.
Isn't that the name of Hillary Clinton's autobiography?
I hope not. Yeah, this is an album. It's a pretty good album. Shout outs to Ode, who loves this. Happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday, Ode.
Yeah. So yeah, this is whenever they got signed to Reprise Records. Rob Cavallo coming in to produce. Notably, it does not sound bad. Is a good produced record. Good job. That was a first for the band at this time, so I'm proud of them. Everything's just a lot tighter, a lot smoother. The bass lines kick, the drums are just all over the place. Billy Joe's vocals right where they need to be. And on top of that, it's a good batch of songs. Burnout's a great opener. Having a Blast is a ton of fun. Chump, the singles, of course, Longview, Welcome to Paradise, Basket Case. When I Come Around, probably the best song on here, I think you agree, is She. Just really incredibly well written and just straight to the point. Lovely record. Yeah, I don't really have anything to complain about. I think there are some weaker points. Not crazy about Sassafras Roots, despite its importance. Coming Clean has never been a song that I've loved. Interesting to note, I believe that the band Pierce the Veil has a cover of that song for some reason. There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a ton to add on Dookie. They're all well performed, well crafted songs. I just think it's not one of their most musically interesting to me. And of course, if I'm counting it all by myself is absolutely awful. Would not suggest listening to that one if given the opportunity. It's real stinky. So number 5, Dookie, 3.5 stars.
All right. Well, all right. I said we were getting into the cream of the crop with my number 5, but my personal cream of the crop starts at my number 4, which I'm up to 4 stars for Nimrod, 1997. Yeah, I really like this record a lot. This is also the point in which I stopped making notes for this episode, because these top 4 albums I know so well and love so much. So if I start stammering more than usual and sounding like I'm like half a human from now on, I apologize. But really, I think the case for this record for me is the fact that, normally you look at an 18-song record and you think, God, do you need 18 songs? Case in point, 21st Century Breakdown. Heyo. But it's only 49 minutes long. Some pretty short songs on it, but also within those 18 songs, for me, there's really only a few that I don't care about or that I would take off. And none of them that I even notably dislike. I mean, my least favorites are probably songs like Reject, Take Back, is kind of silly. Jinx isn't my favorite song, but even the album closer, Prosthetic Head, I've never been super, super huge on. But man, the highlights on this record. I mean, Billy Joe at the top of his game, writing hooks for this record. I mean, Redundant is a top 5 Green Day song for me. What an incredible song. Great chord progression, great melody. I mean, Redundant for me is one of my go-to songs if I'm trying to talk to someone who doesn't like Green Day and convince them of his greatness as a songwriter, because ultimately I totally understand if someone doesn't love, their overall sound or their overall style. I totally, totally get it. But Redundant to me is, I don't want to say it's basically a Beatles song because I've far too much respect for the Beatles to say that, but melodically, I think Redundant and harmonically is as strong as some of the greatest, melodic songwriters of all time. I think that Scattered is also way, way up there for me. That's a top 5, top 10 Green Day song for me. And all the singles, Nice Guys Finished Last, Hitchin' a Ride, both fantastic. I think that Worry Rock is a great tune. Hashinka is another unbelievable band performance. I mean, the bass and drum work on that song in particular, with the incredible, incredible chorus attached to it. One of my absolute favorites. I just think top to bottom, this is an unbelievably strong record. It's an unbelievably fun record. And definitely, I think, up to this point, their most adventurous record. I recognize some people might not love Last Ride In, but I think it's a really, really great soundscape. I'm really happy it's on the record. Yeah, big fan of it. And, look, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. We've all heard it a billion times. We can all probably take or leave it, but I think if you just look at it on its own, it's a very well-written song. I think his vocal on it is very good. And yeah, I'm very, very much a fan of this record. Number 4 stars, Nimrod for me.
Nice. That one's pretty good. Number 4 is American Idiot. I'll just cut to the chase because you've alluded to it before. I didn't realize how awful I think that this record sounded until this most recent re-listen. And here's the thing. I won't defend the production on 21st Century Breakdown because that's also pretty lousy. However, I can listen to that far more because, I mean, especially the opener, the title track, American Idiot. I listened to it and I was like, how the fuck is this so loud? Like, I get massive loudness wars. Like, just that opening guitar part. And I get it's supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be in your face, just a massive political statement. The issue, is it? Like, everybody talks about this as being their big, like, anti-Iraq war record and whatnot. Is it? Like, obviously, you have American Idiot, you have Holiday. Those are like the big two, but what does a song like Extraordinary Girl say about that? And even in regards to a concept, it's fine. Neither of their concept records are really true concept records in that sense, if that makes sense. They're very loose. Obviously, 21st Century Breakdown, far looser. But this one's pretty slippery as well in its concept. Especially whenever you had near the end, Wake Me Up When September Ends, which I get why it's here. I get why it's so impactful. I don't like it, but I get it. So, but it's just entirely removed from the concept. So, like, this is the mid-aughts. Release a single. Just have it out as a single. Don't put it on the album. Thank you. I appreciate it. But past that, I guess I should say good things. I think Jesus of Suburbia, for what it's worth, 9 minutes. It's really interesting. They're most adventurous to this point, and there are some really good parts in it. I don't love all of it, but I think it's really interesting. I still really love Holiday. That's always been one of my favorite of their hits. Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Oh boy. Here's what I have to say. I think it is a good song. I think it is potentially just one of the like most memeable songs ever, though, just simply due to the sped up version and just all of the songs. And for that, in that sense, literally every Green Day song, you speed it up and he just sounds like Phineas from Phineas and Ferb, and I find that hilarious. So I don't know, not saying that's a bad thing. I actually do really like Are We the Waiting. I like whenever it gets a bit more out there. Same with Gimme Novocaine. I've always really loved Letter Bomb as well. I think that's a great one near the end. And the closer, What's Her Name, is really lovely. There's one major issue with this album. You know that you disagree with it. Homecoming is awful. I have never liked Homecoming. I think that takes everything interesting about Jesus of Suburbia, attaches in really poorly designed parts. And I mean, it could be interesting technically from a musical standpoint. However, I think it is the most overblown that the album ends up getting. It just feels really overbaked. I don't know. It's just, and you got Trey Cool singing again. He's like this cool guy that's that Chris. What the hell's the name of the character again? I forget. I'm doing good on my notes this time, but
Saint Jimmy.
yeah, him, yeah, that guy. He's like this guy that Jimmy used to know or whatever, and it's like he's washed up and whatnot. I don't even remember. I just don't like it. I tried to like erase it from my memory because it irritated me. I should have wrote notes this time. This is bad. But I don't know. Just something about this album. I get what they're going for. I appreciate it. I think it was a cool artistic statement from them. The issue is you got stuff like Homecoming, you got Extraordinary Girl with the bongo intro. Why are there bongos on a Green Day record? And I don't know, you got stuff like She's a Rebel. I think when this record hits, it's pretty good. Some of their best stuff. However, I feel like the concept kind of bogged down what it could have been. Like, I get they're trying to make this massive project and whatnot, but it's just, you aren't the band to do that. You aren't My Chemical Romance. You can't make a great concept record. So, yeah. Number 4, American Idiot, 3.5 stars. My apologies for that god awful ramble, in which I don't think I actually said anything. So,
Okay. We will get there. I will bite my tongue until then and talk about my number 3 album, which is an album that I hold very, very dear to my heart, which is their final pre-American Idiot album, 2000's Warning. You know, an album that I think for so long has been touted by fans as their most underrated album, which I feel like that probably doesn't even mean anything anymore to say that. I think, you know, it's started to get the pop that it's deserved, at least maybe within the fan community. I do think that it is the quintessential album to show someone who doesn't like Green Day. Like, if someone says they don't like Green Day, I'm not going to show them Dookie, Insomniac, American Idiot. I would show them maybe Nimrod, but Warning, I think is even more, you know, I don't even want to say like un-Green Day like, because I think a lot of the things that make Green Day great are prevalent on this record, like in spades. Extremely strong melodies, really tight, solid band performances. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. Minority has always been one of my absolute favorite Green Day songs. Another fantastic bass performance from Mike Dirt on that one. Great melodies. Same thing with the title track, which, yes, does rip off Picture Book by the Kinks, and I don't care because I really, really like it. Great melody across that song as well. And man, I just think Castaway is such a fun song. Deadbeat Holiday is a huge highlight. Hold On is basically I Should Have Known Better by the Beatles, and I love it for that. I think Church on Sunday is a fantastic song. I've grown to like Waiting a lot. It used to not be one of my favorite songs on the record, but I do really enjoy it now. I don't love Macy's Day Parade as much as a lot of other people, but I do still very much enjoy it. To me, that is very much like him trying to write Good Riddance Part 2. I don't enjoy it as much, but I do like it. I just think this is an extremely solid list. Oh, and I gotta give a shout out to Misery, which I think is a really kind of batshit crazy song. I think I read an interview where he'd been listening to a lot of Bob Dylan around the making of this record, and I think you can kind of hear it in Misery. I really enjoy it. I just think it's a really, it's a very accessible record. There's a lot of acoustic guitars on it. There's nothing, super overblown. It's not as inherently, I think, I don't even want to say experimental as Nimrod, because I don't necessarily view Nimrod as a super experimental record. I don't think they take as many risks on this record, but I do think that they hone in on a lot of really, really solid songwriting and band performances. I have this record at 4.5 stars because I thoroughly enjoy it that much. And there are times where I would be tempted to name this my number 2 or maybe even my number 1 Green Day record. What stops it from me putting it that high or ranking it even higher is I've never been big on Fashion Victim. I think that's, I don't want to say a lousy song, but I just think it's a throwaway. I think Blood, Sex, and Booze is kind of a throwaway as well. And for both of those are the second and fourth songs on the record. So, for them to be right up at the top and probably my 2 least favorites. And I also don't think Jackass is that strong. So there's 3 songs in general that I'm very meh on. And, there are records that I would easily put at 5 songs that might have a song that I don't love as much. I don't think every song needs to be a 10 out of 10 for it to be a 5-star record. Not for me, at least. It's about the album experience as a whole. For me, this is a 12-song record. It's 41 minutes long, and there are 3 songs that I don't care about as much, so I can't get it that high, but I do thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy this album, and it's my number 3, 4.5 stars for Warning.
Nice. That one, it's a good album. I dig it. We'll talk about it later. Number 3 is going to be it's a toss up between these next 2. I gotta think. Do I go with my heart or do I go with what appeals every drummer ever? I go with me on this one. Sorry, Mr. CV. Number 3 for me is going to be Nimrod. Here's the deal. I have it at 3.5 stars. I think it's a pretty good album. However, if you asked me to make my list like without re-listening, this might have been as low as like number 7, because I never really got this one in comparison to other albums. As you can tell, I think it's pretty good now. I like it a fair bit. It's my number 3. Good for me. Not crazy about Nice Guys Finish Last. I also think All the Time is kind of Take Back is really bad. I don't get who told them it was a good idea. And that's kind of the issue and something I wanted to bring up before getting into this. I feel like Nimrod has a lot of different ideas. It's a very scattered record, but I feel like Warning, it's like that's just like one big change, which is like going from mainly electric to acoustic, And this one is more so they're minorly changing everything up, and it's pretty good. Biggest example of that, the second song, "Hitching a Ride," crazy. Like, what the hell are you doing? Aren't you guys supposed to be telling me when to come around or whatever? But yeah, the song's great. Really, really love it, especially Scream. Whenever it's like 2 minutes in, it's going into the ending of it. Absolutely love it. I think The Grouch is a ton of fun. Redundant, May I Be So Bold probably is my favorite Green Day song. You would be horrified to see where it would place in my top 10 Beatles songs, but we will not get into that. I think Scattered, really good. Worry Rock as well as another fun one. Also another fun fact, Weezer covered that song. Good forevers. Pretty good cover. Platypus, I Hate You, probably it's kind of similar in the sort of aggression and ferocity they were going for on Take Back. However, it actually sounds good, so I like it. I think Uptight's pretty fun. Jenks and Hashenka, I like how they play into one another. Totally agree with what you're saying on Hashenka. I love the kind of like sort of solemn, you got the harmonica with Walking Alone. I think that's a really cool detour. Reject's fun. King for a Day is fucking wild. Just imagine you're in 1997, you're sitting around, you bought this Green Day CD. You just got finished with this weird sort of detour into this massive screaming fit. You just had this ska song just immediately after. I've got that stuck in my head for hours. I don't even know what to say though. It's just so much fun. I could see it on like a Chumbawamba record from the same year, and it'd just be hilarious. Shout out to Chumbawamba. Love those guys. Good good riddance. God, I wish I didn't have to hear you every time. I was blessed with not having it at my high school graduation, so that's good for me. And prosthetic head. It's pretty good. But yeah, 18 songs. I think like 14, 13 of them, all pretty damn solid. And tons of career highlights there. I will say I this is gonna sound weird considering the next record I'm gonna talk about. I think it runs a little long, maybe a bit too adventurous for my liking. I'll stick to my Dawes records and whatnot, but yeah, I think that it is pretty good. I think it's a fun listen all the way through. I'm at 3.5 for Nimrod, my number 3. What's Fiona's favorite Green Day record?
Fiona, what's your favorite Green Day album? Do you have an opinion?
That's a good one.
Yes, we like that one a lot. All right. So for people who know me well, I mean, I massively beyond obsessed with the Beatles and Bob Dylan, you know, my absolute favorite artists of all time. Could go on, have gone on forever about both of them. And you know, Tom Petty is way high up on my list. You know, classic rock kid, classic rock fanboy. You know, Zeppelin, the band, the Who, Springsteen, so on and so forth. And then, you know, I think that, you know, in terms of, you know, newer bands, I tend to either go for, you know, the really adventurous, experimental groups like Wilco and My Morning Jacket, especially. And then, you know, growing up when the Strokes and the Hives and the White Stripes and the Vines were coming out, I mean, that all holds such special place in my heart. So people who know me well and know all that stuff would probably be so confused to learn that I have 2 5-star Green Day albums. That is how much I genuinely like this band. And I still have a hard time sometimes deciding which one to put at number 1. For today, my number 2 is going to be 1994's Dookie, their major label debut on Reprise Records. I don't feel similarly to you. I think that the production on this record is everything it needs to be. I still don't think it necessarily sounds like amazing. You know, it doesn't sound like this perfectly polished record necessarily, but I do think that it takes enough of the rough edges from the first 2 records, figures out which ones to keep, which ones to sand down a little bit, and I think the results are fantastic. And I think for as good as his songwriting was in points on the first 2 albums, it is magnified significantly on this record. I'm 1,000% with you on She, which might be as high as my second favorite Green Day song. I think there are so many songs in their catalog that you could say this for, but with my old band back in Rhode Island, we used to perform She as a very delicate folk song, because with so many of their songs, if you take the melodies outside of their whatever you want to call it, pop punk rock and roll structures, they're just fantastic, really well written melodies, and for that song in particular, very affecting lyrics. The highlight of the album for me. But Basket Case, again, for as much radio play as it's gotten, deserves it more. Fantastic lyrics on that one. Great band performance. Trey Cool's drumming on Basket Case is absolutely sensational, as it is on the opening track Burnout, as it is, as well as the bass performance on When I Come Around. Absolutely fantastic. I think Pulling Teeth is another melodic triumph. I think that Having a Blast is a lot of fun. I do enjoy Sassafras Roots and Coming Clean. I can understand them not necessarily being the highlights. I don't know if they're necessarily the highlights for me either, but I do enjoy them quite a bit. I think In the End is a fantastic. I mean, what a perfect minute and 46 blast of pop punk. And in the end, very cool. Again, like showing like his speed on that song while maintaining such a tightness is unbelievable. Just fantastic performances and song across the record. And again, you get Longview. I mean, that bass line has stood the test of time for a reason, in my opinion. Really, really clever lyrics, I think. People talk about it, oh, it's the masturbation song. And it's not all about that. It is about, just the general, malaise that you feel when you feel completely stuck and not knowing where to go in your life. I mean, I think that so many people could relate to this song. And I don't know. I love it. I love really every song on this record to varying degrees. I think All by Myself is absolutely hysterical. I love it. I never skip it. To me, I'm not going to say that it necessarily it definitely doesn't hold the same weight that like Her Majesty does on Abbey Road in terms of like, cultural significance, because I think we can safely say that Abbey Road holds a greater cultural significance than Dookie. But what I love about Her Majesty, the reason I love Her Majesty closing at the end of that medley is, you get, the Beatles, performing, essentially for the last time as a full band, and they put out basically their entire ethos at the end of it. In the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And it's beautiful and sweeping and gorgeous. But then they make sure to remind you, like, look, we never took ourselves that seriously, and we're not going to now. We're going to, throw this funny little thing at the end because that's who we are. We're four really cheeky dudes. And with Green Day, it's a similar thing. I think that there's enough humor across this record anyway, but I think they make a pretty darn impressive artistic statement across this record of like, hey, for everyone in the San Francisco scene, you can fucking hate us all you want for signing to a major label, but we deserve this because we're damn good songwriters and we're a damn good band and we're going to make a damn good fucking record. But yeah, we'll close it out with All by Myself to be like, yeah, and to everyone else, fuck you too. We're going to do this. I love it. It's a 5-star album for me. It could be my number 1 on any given day, but for now, Dookie is my number 2.
Nice. I'm about to do something really stupid. I'm about to make a claim that's ridiculous.
I am already angry.
I feel like you could genuinely make an argument that Dookie is more culturally impactful than Abbey Road.
What's your number 2 album? We are not.
Here's my case.
Absolutely no, you don't have a case.
The Beatles would have been fine. Like they would have still been highly recognized as the biggest band of all time. Had Abbey Road not released, they would still have Sgt. Pepper's, they would still have the White Album, they would still have Magical Mystery Tour, and they would have all of the massive singles. Here is what I am saying. I am saying that if Dookie did not break out, if it did not become big, Green Day would have fallen into obscurity, people would not recognize them, and at best, the first 2 records will be recognized as pop punk sort of originators and be viewed in the sense of like a Jane's Addiction as being sort of like before their time. My argument in this is saying the Beatles would have been around, they would have still been highly regarded and still would have been absolutely adored if Abbey Road didn't end up releasing and they just broke up after the Yellow Submarine soundtrack, whereas Green Day had no shot of ever becoming as impactful as they were, if not for Dookie. That's my case. I don't like it. I just kind of wanted to have some fun with that and see where I could get.
Well, listen, I think it was an admirable attempt. I don't think it was a successful attempt, but it was an admirable attempt.
Fair enough.
I do think obviously you can make the case that Dookie was extremely important. I think God knows how many kids that heard Dookie and probably started a band, because of it. But I also think arguably too many. But I also think that, I wouldn't go as far as say it's like, well, if we didn't have Dookie, we wouldn't have all these other bands too, because you already had bands like Screeching Weasel and Operation Ivy and No Effects. You would have gotten there eventually. I understand You know, I will even go as far to say that had the Beatles' lasting legacy technically ended with, you know, for all intents and purposes, the White Album, yes, their legacy would have been secure. However, I don't think you can ignore the cultural significance of the songs that ended up on Abbey Road.
Well, I mean,
That is absolutely asinine, you know, and also they achieved things on Abbey Road that they had never achieved on previous albums, which is a, you know, huge thing for a band as wildly successful and as the Beatles, and for a band that achieved as much as they did. They, you know, they did so much on that record that was then even more impressive and groundbreaking. So yes, a completely asinine argument, but you did do your best.
but did they write All by Myself?
They didn't, and for that
were they
reason,
looking?
Dookie is better. Yes,
Absolutely. Thank you.
let's all right. Make your speaking of asinine arguments. Let's talk about your number 2 album.
Hey, I'm good for those. Number 2, 21st Century Breakdown. Nostalgia, just straight up. I can admit
That's
this
fair.
record on pretty much all technical levels. It's just a worse written American Idiot. It's more than likely a worse engineered record. The singles on this record fucking suck for the most part. Know Your Enemy is really lame. One of their
No.
weakest songs.
Wrong.
21 Guns is rancid. That song
Yes.
that song's like tinfoil. It's no good.
No, it's not Rancid. It's Green Day.
Well, yeah, Green Day are a better band. Smile. And then fucking Last of the American Girls, it's good. It's fine. Why was this a single? Like, really? It doesn't make any sense.
I actually I really like that song, but yeah, it no. I agree with you there.
I don't know if I think East Jesus. I don't know. I think East Jesus Nowhere might have been one, or at least a B-side or something. Single choices for this record was weird as hell. Like, why was the Static Age not a single? That would have made way more sense to me. But anyways, let's get into why I like this album. I listened to it in the car when I was younger. I think it's one of their more slick, more sort of. I get what you're saying with it being a bit, with it still very much struggling with the loudness wars. The issue is, I feel like the difference between Rob Cavallo's take to the loudness wars and Butch Vig's is very different. And I just happen to prefer what Butch Vig did as opposed to Rob Cavallo. Because I feel like you do get a bit of his playbook on here, like it or hate it. I feel like it's a more balanced record for me, if that makes sense. I view it as being a bit tighter for me. Glad you're enjoying yourself up there. I love the title track. I think 21st Century Breakdown's great. I really like both of Evil Glorias. I think that they're a ton of fun. Christian's Inferno is like so bad it's good to me. It's like AC/DC in the chorus with how he's just continually going the song name, and it's really, really bad, and I kind of like it. Last Night on Earth is lovely. It's one of my favorite ballads that the band do. And you are just struggling right now. I'm sorry. I'll try and wrap this up.
No, take your time.
I think Murder City is a bunch of fun. It's just sort of casual out there. A Restless Heart Syndrome. Here is what I will say. You are 100% correct. This song is overblown to the max. It does not hold up in a little bit. There are some of his most trite and overdone lyrics. I think it's exactly what you want from this, though. I think it is exactly what Green Day as a band should be doing with their rock opera. Because, like, before this, you were literally all by myself. You were writing these sort of goofy, fun pop punk songs. But on here, it's like you're trying to be serious. You're trying to be the Who. This is basically their Tommy, for what it's worth. And is it anywhere near as good as Tommy? A little bit. No. Is it still pretty good? Yeah. I can fully admit and poke as many holes in this record as I can. It's like a White Castle burger. But just kind of like cheap fun for me. I have a bunch of nostalgia for it. I don't think it's good. And I don't know. It's just like I enjoy it, despite its many, many flaws. I'm at 3.5 stars. So it's still not like a 5-star masterpiece. I just think it's merely good for 21st Century Breakdown. Number 2.
Well, like I said before, and I'm not saying this facetiously. I truly mean this as genuinely as I mean anything. Like, I cannot and do not want to take that away from you, because music is such a beautiful personal part of our lives, and there's always going to be things that we hear and we feel that it doesn't seem like anybody else does. But that's there's so many groups that I don't like that have changed other people's lives, so who am I to take that away from anyone? So I respect that. And I'm truly happy that you like it that much. But my number one album, my number one favorite Green Day album, American Idiot from 2004, is so demonstrably better than 21st Century Breakdown that it's not even funny. For you to claim that 21st Century Breakdown is tighter than this record is so beyond comprehension to me. There is nothing on American Idiot that I would cut. Even Wake Me Up When September Ends, which Billy Joe Armstrong admits as such is the one song in the album that is not technically a part of the story or the concept, whatever. Even that song wouldn't lose it for a second. There are so many songs on 21st Century Breakdown that I would lose. And his writing on American Idiot actually makes sense, whereas it doesn't on 21st Century Breakdown. Like, there are so many lyrics on 21st Century Breakdown where you read, you're like, what the hell? Like, a jilted crowd, like all these like strange little terms he used that mean absolutely nothing, don't connect to each other. I think that you and a lot of other people are missing the point by saying, oh, well, this is their big Iraq war record, and therefore is it really a good concept record? It's not just about the Iraq war. Yes, obviously, it touches on that with American Idiot and Holiday, but more so, it's about the extreme societal shift that this country underwent, and the world in general, but especially America, underwent in the aftermath of 9/11. Songs like Jesus of Suburbia, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, St. Jimmy, and yes, even Extraordinary Girl, those songs all touch upon. No, I'm not saying that Extraordinary Girl is the strongest song. Extraordinary Girl is maybe my least favorite song on the record. But he actually has it well written in the narrative of the record, which you cannot say for most of 21st Century Breakdown. Coming after She's a Rebel, the girl he's talking about is Extraordinary Girl. It fits in, it's very well written, and it's, again, talking about these, this generation that feels very, very lost and confused, like seeing this shift happening in our society. Whether or not you think that they're the band to do it or not, or you think it's the most successful, I don't think you can deny that it is. I think it's very well written. I don't think you can deny that. I think lyrically it's very strong. I think melodically it's extremely strong. I think Jesus of Suburbia is the best thing that they've ever achieved. I think it is unreal. I think you're completely wrong on Homecoming. I think that Homecoming is also extremely successful. I think that Nobody Likes You, the Mike Dirnt part of that song, is like one of the most cathartic parts of their whole discography. I think East 12th Street, The Death of St. Jimmy are both excellent. I think We're Coming Home Again is excellent. I think the Are We the Waiting into St. Jimmy, as well as Give Me Novocaine into She's a Rebel, are absolutely fantastic. Unbelievable performances. Really, the only negative thing I can say is, as I alluded to earlier, the neutering of Mike Dirnt, which begins on this record. I think it's very sad that you get this incredible drum solo in Jesus of Suburbia. And, if you're familiar with any of their live shows, or especially the Bullet and a Bible live album and DVD, he calls out Trey Cool, and Trey does all these incredible kind of Keith Moon-esque drum fills. And then he also calls Mike Dirnt's name at the beginning of Tales of Another Broken Home for da 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 da. it makes me sad. It makes me sad for Mike. But I just think it's an absolute triumph. I think that the title track is a kick-ass song. I think Holiday is a kick-ass song. Boulevard of Broken Dreams and Wake Me Up When September Ends, yes, played to death, but I still really enjoy those songs, especially Wake Me Up When September Ends, a very affecting song about the death of his father. I don't really know what else to say about it. I think, yeah, it is borderline irresponsible to claim that 21st Century Breakdown is better than this. It's not irresponsible to say that you like it more. I will give you that. I won't take that away from you. To claim that it's better, again, it's all subjective, but I think the songwriting on this record, the performance on this record, again, starting with 21st Century Breakdown, the tuning of his vocals, the vocal production, and the production of the records in general nosedives deeply after this. I'm not going to deny that, yes, it's a very loud album, as most rock records, unfortunately, from 2004 were, but just turn down the fucking volume and you still enjoy it. Like, get over it. They talk about the same thing with McCartney's 2007 record, Memory Almost Full. They're like, oh my God, it's so loud. Turn down the fucking volume. And you'll enjoy it because the songs are still good. The songs on this record are fucking great. I think it's an unbelievable. It's a top 50 album of all time for me. Genuinely, I love American Idiot. It's my number one Green Day album.
Nice. Yeah, it'd be in the conversation for top 500 maybe. But yeah, I mean, more power to you. It's a ubiquitous record that people all across the globe love. All I'll say is you're the one with ARTV on your side championing it being top 50. So
I've never met Mr. ARTV. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. And if you're watching this channel, hi. Notice that I'm not the one talking too badly about you. I'm a nice guy.
prove it.
And nice guys finish last. Number one.
Okay. Warning. Yeah. It's the Green Day album that sounds the least like a Green Day album, so by proxy, it's my number one. But no, in reality, I actually do think this is just a very well-made record. I am up to 4 stars for Warning. I was tempted to go 4.5 stars. However, as you mentioned, there's Hold On, which sounds very similar to a Beatles song, so I don't like it very much in context of the record. Shouts to me being a little dork. But no, I think the rest of this record is really strong. Is Warning a Kinks ripoff? Absolutely. Am I brave enough to say that I like it more than the Kinks song? No. But just know that I'm not brave enough to say it. I think Blood, Sex, and Booze is a ton of fun. I love Church on Sunday. Fashion Victim is one that I'll agree, it's not great. It's one of the weaker on the records, but it's grown on me over time. I love Castaway. I think that one is just so much fun. And my favorite thing about this record is how they really are honing in on that sort of acoustic, almost light folky nature to a lot of these songs, especially on Macy's Day Parade. At their core, you can tell they're still, like an alt rock, like a pop punk sort of band, but they're playing it from such a different style. And if, Sum 41, if Jimmy Eat World, if, fucking, I don't know, Stained did this, it wouldn't work. I couldn't think of the third one. That was the first band that came to mind.
Simple Plan, Newfound Glory. Yeah.
Okay, bring them up. But yeah, I mean, Green Day is able to pull it off. You can't expect Good Charlotte to do this record. It's way above the criteria of who could do it. And you got plenty of humor on here too. I know you said that you weren't crazy about Jackass, but it's definitely, them updating their 90s sound for this record. I can't get enough of Misery. I think that is the weirdest thing that they have ever done. And it is so fucking cool, like a mariachi, sort of like Spanish weird type of song in the middle of the record. And it's so crazy. Why did they think it was a good idea? And furthermore, why does it work? And I don't know. I just think for the most part, these are incredibly well-written songs with great instrumentation. And it's just not going for anything more than what it is. Because Green Day stripped back, it's like they're MTV unplugged in a sense. Whether or not you think that's good or not, oh well, I like it. I actually own this one, so point for Nimrod. This is not Nimrod, this is Warning. Look at what I did.
But points for both of them anyway.
Sure. Fiona would agree with me. Fiona loves
She
this
would.
one. Hell yeah. So yeah, that was Green Day.
Yeah, very, very nice review. Yeah, even though it's only my number 3, I mean, there are days where it's the only Green Day album that I'd want to listen to in a lot of ways. Yeah, always really liked that one, and yeah, it was really fun. I didn't have to revisit, everything in this discography, in preparation for this, just because I know so much of it so well. But even just writing down notes, and revisiting certain songs and certain albums, it was a lot of fun for me. Even the bads, to me, their worst stuff is interesting. Like, oh yeah, Nightlife and Kill the DJ are all terrible, but there's something about all the songs that were kind of interesting to me. For me, where Green Day really falters, especially in the latter half of their career, with songs on the Trilogy and Revolution Radio, is just when they get boring and predictable.
Yeah.
Songs like Outlaws or Ashley. These songs they're just nothing. And I will give this to Father of All, even though it is clearly the worst. It is more interesting as a whole than some of the other records, and I am interested to see where they're able to go, if they're able to go anywhere. And yeah, I just really, really like this band. It almost doesn't make sense, but to me, the part of it that makes sense for me is just that I'm a rock and roll kid at heart, and Green Day to me is a rock and roll band. I think some people get so caught up in, pigeonholing them or labeling them as a punk band or as a pop punk band. And if you only think of them as a punk band, then you're going to shit on them because they're too pop punk to be, they're not the Sex Pistols, or they're not, Dead Kennedys or Bad Brains or Husker Du or anything like that. Or if you do think about them as a pop punk band, then, you're not going to take that to, or in some ways they're not going to be pop punk enough for you, because they actually dare
Write
to
songs.
they dare to write songs. It seems like, obviously, my scores are a little higher than yours overall, but it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but for you, maybe they're more of a songs band than an albums band, and that you appreciate and enjoy a lot of their individual songs.
Yeah.
And that's totally fair. I mean, I honestly might feel, I got 2 5s and a 4.5, but yeah, past that, lots of 3 stars and below for me too. I mean, they're, really just my top 5, I have at 3.5 and up. But I don't know. I think they're a great rock and roll band, and the pop punk aspect, I guess, if you want to call that their sound, it doesn't bother me, because I think it's done tastefully. I mean, there's elements of the Ramones that are pop punk, elements of the Clash that are pop punk. It doesn't sound the same because it was made in a different era, but that's how I've always thought about it and how I feel about them.
Absolutely. They are a band. It's almost kind of like surprising to me how popular they are, because in a sense you could legitimately put them as like one of the pillars of modern sort of popular rock bands. Like them, you have Foo Fighters, you probably have like Weezer. We were talking about this before. It's almost strange to me how they've gotten as popular as they are, with how interesting they can be at points. Which,
well, I think I was talking with my friend about this the other day. We were talking about the Super Bowl halftime shows, and you look at the recent history of it. You had Nipplegate back in 2004 with Janet Jackson, and so for a little while there, they played it safe, and they got all the classic rock acts. You got McCartney, the Stones, Petty, Springsteen, and then it took the Who putting on a pretty bad performance. Because all the Petty, Springsteen, McCartney, I think all put on very good shows. Safe but good shows. The Stones weren't that great, but it was fine. They were the Stones. The Who didn't recognize the magnitude of the Super Bowl. Being a British band, they didn't realize how big it was here in America. They put on a pretty bad show, and they started skewing more modern after that, which also did not pay immediate dividends, because the year after the Who, they had Black Eyed Peas, which is one of, if not the worst halftime performance of all time. But eventually, you know, like I'm not necessarily a fan of any of these acts, but you ended up getting some good iconic halftime shows like Bruno Mars, Katy Perry, and you know, very successful all things considered. But my friend and I were talking about, like, you know, would they ever bring, you know, rock and roll back to the halftime show? And to me, it's interesting because I think bands like Green Day, Pearl Jam, Foo Fighters, those three in particular, those are three bands that have multiple generations worth of fans. You have their original fans from the 90s, but all three of those bands, I think, in different ways have been able to reach younger generations with Green Day and the Foo Fighters with some of the newer music they put out in the last 20 years. And with Pearl Jam, I think not necessarily revisionist, but people just going back to that era, recognizing how good it was. And Pearl Jam being a very consistent band in general, putting out good records. I feel like any of those bands, you know, Green Day has reached that popularity. Like, why wouldn't they be ripe for doing something like that? You telling me that Green Day couldn't put together a 12-minute halftime show with, you know, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Basket Case, you know, so Brain Stew, so many songs that people love and remember and know. Make it happen, NFL. Roger Goodell is listening to this, which I'm sure he is. Make it happen.
I think I actually saw something in like 2020 before COVID hit. They actually did something for the NHL hockey thing.
Yep.
And from what I remember, that was all right. They did good, I think. So
yeah, I mean, they were mostly playing Father of All stuff, so it could only be so good. But
absolutely. I mean, it's better than their iHeart Music Festival attempt.
Just remember, everybody, he's not fucking Justin Bieber, literally or figuratively.
I mean, to be
that
fair,
would be very.
We gave him far more than 1 minute, so
this is true.
I hope he's grateful for the time that we've provided for him.
I hope so too. Well, thanks for having me on, Adrian.
Absolutely. We'll meet up next time for Justin Bieber to see if his 1 minute was deserved. But yeah.
Only if we talk about the Christmas album.
He has a Christmas album?
Of course he does. Come on. Even I know that.
I could sure.
I won't be doing that. But I will hopefully be back on if you'll have me.
Yeah, sure, why not? That being said, that was the Green Day discussion. I hope that you all enjoyed it. I kind of like this band. I don't know. They're a tricky one for me to assess because they're one of those groups that I got into when I was very new to music. I feel like I have an old top 10 albums list that if you know what my favorite albums are now, I'll ask what the fuck happened to this person within just a brief like 3-year period. And yeah, I mean, I don't really go out of my way to look for Green Day anymore, but I still enjoyed listening through this despite, you know, having one album that, you know, I care about now. But yeah, I feel like they are a very unique band. I like what they bring to modern rock music. And like or hate them, you really can't deny how impactful they have been on a scene of music that most people hate. So good for you, Mike Dirnt. I will greatly miss your bass work. That being said, I hope that you all enjoyed this and you have a great one. Bye.